Curtis Sliwa, once again the Republican nominee for New York City mayor, with the confidence he can win it all.
Do the math. A little bit more, and I'm the next mayor of the city of New York.
No shortage of headlines in this race, including accusations of bribery to get Sliwa to drop out.
Come on, Curtis. Everybody has a price. Curtis Sliwa doesn't have a price.
And while some see him as a spoiler candidate, keeping votes away from Andrew Cuomo's challenge to Zohran Mamdani, Sliwa disagrees.
You think my supporters are going to vote for Cuomo?
I don't know, but I think they don't want...
Staying true to his message.
And it's all about, for me, public safety, crime.
But with so many issues driving voters to the poll, we're getting Curtis Sliwa on the record for it all.
This is a special edition of PIX on Politics with Dan Mannarino. Race for New York City Mayor. One-on-one with the candidates.
And welcome to a special edition of PIX on Politics, everybody. I'm Dan Mannarino. Our second episode here in our three-part series where I'm going one-on-one with the top three candidates for New York City Mayor. No issues off the table, the answers you need to hear before casting your vote. And today, Curtis Sliwa joins the show, and he is joining me now. So great to have you back here on PIX on Politics. Good to see you.
Oh, my pleasure, Dan. And if you notice, without the beret.
Is this the new thing from now until Election Day? No beret?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Look, some people have said, I can't take it seriously. I can't think of you as being mayoral with the red beret on your head. And so I just decided, look, if that is the one reason you might not vote for me, I wasn't born with a beret on my head. When I die, I won't have a beret. So no beret. And I think I proved last night in that debate that I was very mayoral.
Let's talk about the debate, right? You needed to have this breakout moment to gain momentum. Post-debate, you said, I absolutely won. So what was your breakout moment when you look back at the 2-hour debate?
You know, the NBC4, who were the moderators, I could tell in the first 10 minutes were treating me like a person of no consequence. I was right there in the middle. We had drawn lots. And I'm saying, wow, they're not even coming to me. And I was just listening to both my adversaries, and it was like the primary debate all over again, nothing new. Remember that group, that French MTV group, Daft Punk? Mm-hmm. You know, where it was like very robotic. Cuomo was saying the very same things. Zohran, everything, his answer was affordability. Could have been a question about global warming, climate change, affordability.
Well, that's what he's running on.
Parks, affordability. But come on, there were so many issues to discuss. And I think what people recognize from me is that I was breaking out with a lot of ideas that neither of those two introduced any new ideas. It was basically the same old, same old.
You seemingly went after Andrew Cuomo more than you did Zohran Mamdani during the debate. At one point, you said to Andrew Cuomo, "You are no Mario Cuomo." So was it your strategy going in to go after Andrew Cuomo more than Zohran Mamdani? In fact, sometimes during the debate, you said, "I agree with you." And he said, "I agree with you."
You mean both of the candidates agreed with me again and again and again? That was the one thing that came out. Andrew Cuomo and Zohran Mamdani. Zohran Mamdani agreed with me 3 times, Andrew Cuomo 2 times. So that made me the winner. But the reason is I'm listening to Andrew reinvent himself. He's Andrew 2025, not 2019, without any apologies. And now he's all pro-police. And I'm saying, well, we have to remind everybody out there. This is the guy who in 8 years, his parole board released 43 cop killers. And I turned to him and I said, Mario Cuomo, your father was governor for 12 years, never released 1 cop killer. I knew Mario Cuomo. You know Mario Cuomo, Andrew. I had to do that because this guy, in his attempt to reinvent himself as the law and order candidate, has failed us.
So let me talk about these moments before the debate began last night. A Fox News poll came out. First time it had Zohran Mamdani cracking the 50% threshold. Andrew Cuomo 28%, you at 14%. And with those numbers out, you said after the debate that it's time for Andrew Cuomo to step aside and let this become a 2-man race. Why should he drop out when he's double your numbers?
He's reached his plateau. He's not going anywhere. He's not going to get any new voters. And by the way, that Fox News poll in the area of crime, it had Zohran Mamdani getting 40%, me only 26%. What if Fox News, did they question shoplifters, pimps, prostitutes, people doing drive-by shootings, gang members? Everybody knows that's his weakest subject. So I take that poll, I throw it right out the window as not being relevant. And it had Andrew Cuomo as being trusted and honest at 50%. Now, this is the guy who's facing perjury charges by the Department of Justice. So the results of that poll cannot
That's
be
not
at all
just the only
fathomed.
poll, though, that has you that far below Andrew Cuomo. So that's why I'm wondering why you want him to drop out when he's asking for you to drop out.
Dan, he's got no gas left in the tank. Again, the old hackneyed expressions. He's not out in the streets. He's running the same campaign he did in the primary. He's going to get the same results. Andrew Cuomo lost that campaign in the primary. His own Democrats turned on him. But this is a guy who can't understand what no means in so many ways. So out with the old, in with the new. Clearly, I won the debate last night. I came in with so many new ideas. I said, wait, to keep our seniors here, if you're 65 and you make $265,000 or less and own a home, no property tax. We got to cut property tax. We got to cut income tax for the 19 to 28-year-olds because we need them to stay here if they've gone to school here. Look at all these. I said, we got to retrofit all of the office space here that equals 25 Empire State Buildings, do it in the dense areas. I was opposed to the city of, the lithium-ion battery warehouses. Here was Zoran Mandami saying, affordability, affordability, affordability. And then all that Andrew Cuomo wanted to talk about was Hamas, Hamas, Hamas.
Okay.
There were so many more issues that you got to cover when you're mayor.
Back to the calls of you dropping out. I know that you want Andrew Cuomo to drop out. Have you two actually had a conversation about either of those options?
No, none whatsoever. But remember, there was a push for me to drop out when Andrew Cuomo got beaten in the Democratic primary by Zoran Mandami, June 24th. Then all the billionaires were running over with their billions to Eric Adams. He was the Mashiach, the savior. Boy, he was one and done. Then they all started running over to Cuomo. So there's been that constant drumbeat. I'm saying, but I'm the only Republican. I'm the only law and order candidate. Remember, last night on the stage, I said, look, here's the architect, here's the apprentice. No cash bail, raise the age, close Rikers Island.
Yeah.
They agree on all these issues because they have this same philosophy about crime. It's pro-criminal, and I'm pro-victim.
I heard you say many times that you received calls to drop out, you received bribes to drop out. Have those stopped?
Yes, because remember, I put them on blast. That's the street term that if you make another call to me, I'm wired up like a Christmas tree. Probably the investigators of Alvin Bragg will be listening to your call because it's not only unethical and a bribe, but it could be criminal.
Much of the debate last night focused on President Trump, who have repeatedly, you have said, is no friend of yours. President Trump just said the Gateway Tunnel project was terminated. And after Congress approved billions of dollars to get the tunnel done connecting both New York and New Jersey. What do you think of that move to terminate that project?
Well, you see, I took a different approach than my two adversaries. They were filled with testosterone crashing from their cranium. They just want to fight Donald Trump, and they're each trying to, I'll fight him hard. I said, well,
but on the Gateway Tunnel.
On the Gateway, but also coupled with that was the 2nd Avenue continuation of the subway. So I would have said, you don't fight Donald Trump. He's got all the cards. He's got New York City by the short hairs. You negotiate. You say, we'll give up the 2nd Avenue, 3 stations that are not needed on the Q train line. But the Gateway project moves millions and millions of people from Washington, D.C. to Boston. It's important for the whole Northeast coast. And you negotiate. Remember, President Trump, one thing I've learned, he wants to be respected. He wants you to know he's in charge, and he likes the art of the deal. He likes when you come to him and say, okay, I'll give you this, but can you give me that? These two guys basically are bumping chests. I can out-tough Trump. You can't.
So you think you can get the Gateway to be unterminated, even though he said it's because of Chuck Schumer?
Right. I think you have to go in there and you have to deal, first of all, with the people that he's assigned to this.
Okay.
And see it coming down the pipe. Remember, Trump always signals things that are coming ahead of time. So preemptively get ahead of the curve, because once he makes a declarative statement, it's hard to walk it back. You saw what happened to Zelensky when he walked into the White House and had that meeting with Trump. Notice how quickly Zelensky walked that back. He wasn't going to out-tough Trump. You can't out-tough Trump. And look, I'm the toughest guy of both those guys if you combine them together.
Also in the debate, you said the greatest mayor of New York City was Rudy Giuliani, who also endorsed you. He has close ties to President Donald Trump, right? And who you distance yourself from. Is the Rudy Giuliani today that you're accepting the endorsement from the same Rudy Giuliani that you knew when he was mayor?
Well, then, obviously, he was totally focused, law and order, saving the city, which he did. I supported him in his first run against David Dinkins, which he lost, and the second run in '93. And the important thing was, and I keep reiterating this as I did last night, Rudy won. It helped the city recover. Pataki won the next year. Nobody knew George.
But is the Rudy Giuliani today,
yes,
since he was mayor and has now become close to President Trump, is he the same Rudy Giuliani today? Is he the same that a New Yorker respected back then?
There are people who still respect him. I differ with him on some of the issues he took about the voting. I believe Joe Biden won the election in 2020 fair and square. We've had those discussions. But you can agree to disagree and still be a member of the same party in the Republican Party. Well, when it comes to law and order, he considers me
He had some criminal dealings as well. He had to settle some things in court. And you often go after Eric Adams for having a criminal background. Isn't Rudy Giuliani, can he be similar?
Oh, my God. We're talking about theft. We're talking about straw donors. We're talking about taking foreign money, dark money, to alter an election. It's far different than what Rudy Giuliani was being charged with.
Let's talk about crime. You said that NYPD needs an additional 7,000 police officers. Andrew Cuomo's called for an additional 5,000. Blair Boyer, who Facebook, she's one of our viewers, she wrote this: how can we attract more people to join NYPD with DAs in place that just release criminals within hours of being arrested? What do you say to Blair?
Well, as I pointed out, the biggest impediment always has been in the past. That's why you got to be in the streets and subways and talk with people, which I do all the time. Was the referrals that dads and moms who were police would make to their children, grandchildren, nieces, nephews. And there was usually like 2/3 of the recruits could say, oh, there have been police in my family. Now, the first thing the police will tell their siblings, don't join the police because you have no qualified immunity. Now, that's a difficult term to understand. Basically, the insurance that protects all civil servants. What I brought up in last night's debate, Tom DiNapoli says we're paying out $60 million in the sexual harassment cases made against Andrew Cuomo. He's protected because they were done when he was governor. Cops can be now personally sued. So nobody wants to join a police department where you know you have to do physical intervention and you can be personally sued. So that has to be dealt with.
Timeline to get to that 7,000. How long does it take to get to that number?
Well, you can actually do what Boston has done, which is payment in lieu of taxes. You go after Columbia, you go after NYU, which now owns massive real estate. You go after...
Timeline, how long?
Jimmy Dell. It's going to take you a year. Remember, you have to not only recruit them, you got to train them, they got to graduate the academy and college.
So you think in 1 year you can get that number to 7,000?
Oh, I think we can. And I think we can get the money if we follow the Boston approach.
You've said this week that you'd consider keeping Jessica Tisch. So is that a yes? Would you keep Jessica Tisch, or are you looking at other options?
Look, we needed stability in the police department. Remember, before she assumed becoming police commissioner, we had crooked Eddie Caban. We had Jeffrey Madry on the 13th floor, who was like the sequel to Caligula. We had Timothy Pearson, corrupt. We had,
yes.
Right, we had...
Yes, you'd keep Jessica Tisch.
Oh, absolutely. Now, the one thing I would do differently is she runs the police department, any police commissioner. You have a disagreement behind closed doors. I don't need to be at her press conferences. What is Eric Adams doing at her press conferences? She's the police commissioner. She's in charge. She calls the shots. They should be separate from City Hall.
All right, more with Curtis Sliwa coming up as we dive deeper into his plans for New York City, from affordability to tackling the important topic of mental health here in New York City. We're back in just 2 minutes.
You're watching PIX on Politics with Dan Mannarino. Race for New York City Mayor.
And welcome back to PIX on Politics, everybody. Continuing the conversation now with Curtis Sliwa. So, Curtis, I want to talk about housing. It's a really important topic for so many. You've talked about the need for more housing, right? You oppose Mayor Adams' City of Yes. You oppose the ballot proposals to expedite housing. So what is your plan to get immediate housing and bring down some of the rents?
I think you just look to Manhattan, northern Brooklyn, and northern Queens, where you already have density housing. A lot of conversions taking place of office space that'll never be used. Is 25 Empire State Buildings worth of office space that'll never be used again because of the way business is done. Virtually, people work from home. So do the conversion right away to affordable apartments. 50% of them should be affordable. Help the developers, but keep them in these dense areas where you already have infrastructure. You have transportation, you have schools. In the outer boroughs, you will destroy the residential makeup, and it will cause people to leave their homes and flee. I want people to improve, not to move. That's why you live in a residential area. And that can be done because it's already being done, but we need to expedite it. If you build a brand new building for 300 apartments, Dan, takes 5 years from beginning to end. If you convert an office building that's empty because they have nobody coming in who wants to have an office there, it takes 1 year to turn it around.
Rosalinda Toll, one of our viewers, asked on Facebook, what is his plan with NYCHA, especially that it lacks accountability and true transparency? So what do you say to Rosalinda?
Well, first thing is you have 6,000 apartments that are vacant in NYCHA. The mayor controls that. I would immediately move families with children in who may be living in shelter systems. We don't want them living in shelters. And I would offer the NYCHA residents who are facing demolition every day, you know, developers are eyeing their property, especially along the East River, both sides, Manhattan and Queens. You have a right to own your own apartment. Jack Kemp, who was a great Secretary of HUD, Republican, former congressman from the Buffalo area, was in the Reagan administration, came up with a great idea where the tenants could actually own their apartment units like you have co-ops and condos at a very small price with help from the federal government. You know who turned him down on that? My fellow Republicans. The Democrats said, wow, that is a wonderful idea. I would revive that. You give people ownership, even though they're contributing a minimal amount.
What about leadership?
Excuse me?
What about leadership at NYCHA?
Oh, leadership at NYCHA, it's dysfunctional. It's absolutely dysfunctional. You go from housing development to housing development. There is a corrupt strain of kickbacks going from everybody who is providing services. You streamline that approach. There's so much waste in NYCHA. And by the way, Trump has already signaled he's cutting the federal funding for NYCHA, which is about 70%. So
we have
that. Excuse me?
Do you agree with that?
No, of course. You want to meet with him. You want to try to negotiate less of a solid hit on public housing. But we really do have to get our house in order.
I'm hearing you talk about a lot of negotiations, but it sounds like you'd have to give stuff up to get what you want.
Well, what are you going to do? Go to court and fight forever? And meantime, the tenants will be displaced. You know, New York City residents will suffer if this becomes a macho maniacal battle between Donald Trump, Andrew Cuomo, or Zohran Mamdani. And by the way, Zohran Mamdani, you know, everything is affordability. In the next debate, I'm going to say, Zohran, you already have a plan. You can't deliver on any of these promises of free, because it's fantasy, not reality. And when you can't do it, who's he going to blame? Donald Trump. Of course, that's always the fallback.
Talk about mental health. It's a big issue for many around here. You often said homeless need dignity and they need privacy. You blame the state for failing to reopen mental health hospitals. So how would you get, as a mayor, more space to house some of the folks who need the beds, the bed capacity? Is it a mayoral issue or is it a state issue?
It's a combination, but more mayoral when you're talking about our homeless. Now, Zohran Mamdani, again, fantasy, not reality. He wants to house them in empty storefronts in the subway system. I'm the only candidate in this. You go into the shelters that exist. There are over 300 that the Department of Homeless Services run. They're poorly run. It's Darwinian, survival of the fittest. Those who are considered weak feel they have to leave. You make it safe and secure. You provide them with services. You don't kick them out at 7 in the morning and make them come back at 10 at night. That's not helping them. I know, because I've been in a third of the shelters in the city of New York.
Do you have the money for that? Where do you get the money?
It's not a question of money. It's a question of streamlining and making sure that you are providing security. The security officers are already there. I would revive the Homeless Outreach Unit, which used to be part of the NYPD. These were dedicated men and women cops who, by the way, had medical practitioners with them when they took care of the emotionally disturbed and the homeless in the subways and the streets. They were disbanded when Bill de Blasio and the city council danced the tarantella while pulling $1 billion out of the budget in the summer of 2020. It worked then, it'll work again. You never invent anything. Like Zohran Mamdani was talking about, oh, well, Eugene, Oregon has this great plan for the emotionally disturbed. I looked at him, said, have you ever been in Eugene? I have. Are you out of your mind? This is New York City. Again, fantasy, not reality.
We're going to leave it right there. More with Curtis Sliwa when we come back. And I'm back with Curtis Sliwa. Curtis, let me ask you this. On the ballot this year, many people know that there's extra measures, not just voting for mayor. And there is this move to move elections to presidential years. It would give the mayor a longer first term. Do you support that? Are you a yes or no on that vote?
Absolutely not. This mayoral election proves that. It's received worldwide attention because of the dynamics. If you're running in a presidential year, how much time is going to be spent not just on mayoral elections, but the 51 city councilmanic elections? No. It's too important a position, too many city council people important to be able to get their message out. It'd be drowned out. And by the way, you won't have a two-party system. You'll have a one-party system because it'll be all Democrat all the time.
If you don't win this election, will you run for office again?
Wow, that's a big question that you're asking there, Dan. I intend on doing one thing. If I happen to lose, no matter who it's to, I'm not leaving. I'm going to stay and fight for what I know is right and improve, not move.
So could run again for something?
I have no idea. I mean, look, it's a question of, do people want you to run for something? People have always urged me to run. That's why I'm running. That's why this professional political class out there cackling away. Well, you're not a real candidate. Hey, I'm a Republican populist who represents working class people. Understand, there's a change in the Republican Party. It's an urban Republican Party. And I think I've become the leader of
I'm up against the clock here. 30 seconds left. You said last night on the debate that $175 is what you spend in groceries. This question got a lot of attention from people wanting to know, well, where does he buy his groceries?
Oh, all over the place, wherever I can, because remember, I'm campaigning 20 hours a day. At times, my wife says, hey, it's your turn to go out. She takes care of our cats. I take care of buying the groceries.
So where do you go?
$5, well, right around the corner, right? Fairways. It's right there on the west side where I live. $5 for a gallon of milk, $3 for a loaf of bread. The prices are too high to pay.
All right, Curtis Sliwa, giving everybody equal time. Great to have you back here on Picks on Politics. And we'll be right back. A busy few weeks ahead, everybody, as we head into an intense home stretch of this election season. Here's what's coming down the line, okay? So next week, we wrap up our series with the Democratic nominee, Zohran Mamdani. Again, send me the questions that you want me to ask Mr. Mamdani. And then remember, you'll be able to watch all the mayoral candidate interviews online at pix11.com and streaming on Pix11 Plus. And hey, New Yorkers, you still have the chance to register to vote. October 25th is that all-important deadline, okay, which is also the first day of early voting. Be sure you make your voting plan now and stick with Pix11 political team for all of your election coverage leading up to, of course, the big day on November 4th. For now, I'm Dan Mannarino. That'll do it for this episode of Picks on Politics. Enjoy the rest of your day.